She'd found new love in a new city.
I was happy for her. Happy that she's finally met someone.
They was lovey-dovey.
It was like a fairy tale.
But behind closed doors, things aren't always as picture perfect as they seem.
She became a different person when she was with him.
There'd been some period of time that they had not heard from her.
I did not know where my baby was.
It was not unusual for Cree to leave town. People run away and try to get a new life.
Is this a case of miscommunication or murder?
This was the kind of person who, if there was a disagreement, would probably resort to violence.
I'm very suspicious that she was involved. Somebody knows more than what they were saying. She would never, ever leave her daughter. She's not going to do that.
Desperation will keep her family searching for the painful truth.
This is a nightmare that nobody wanted to believe.
There's monsters in this world that do terrible things for no reason, just because.
July 1st, 2016. It's a warm Friday evening in Newark, New Jersey, when local resident Dee Dee Smith receives a worrying call about her 7-year-old granddaughter.
Her other grandmother, she called me and told me my granddaughter had an ear infection.
She said she tried taking her to the clinic, but she couldn't because she didn't have her insurance card.
School had let out in June, and Cree had taken her daughter to stay with the daughter's grandmother.
You just need the card number. Cree should have that.
She told me. I called down there. I didn't hear no answer. So that's when she called me.
That doesn't make sense. Let me try her.
She was a good mother. Her baby was the most important thing in her life.
That's what made me start thinking something was wrong.
It's also what prompts Cree's mother to make her own worried call to her daughter.
Hey, this is Cree. Please leave a message.
Hi, Cree, it's Mama. Give me a call when you get this.
But Dee Dee can't know that this is just the first in a series of unanswered calls.
Dee Dee wanted to believe that it was just a misunderstanding, but something felt wrong.
As a mother, you just have this intuition, and in that moment, Dee Dee knew something was wrong.
Growing up in New Jersey, Cree Smith always had a special bond with her mother and older sister.
We did a lot together, even though we was like 8 years apart. Everywhere I went, she went.
Loved and supported, Cree was a happy, bubbly child.
She always joked. She always had a smile on her face.
She was just very giggly all the time. I can't even think of a day that she wasn't cracking jokes.
If Cree wasn't cracking jokes, chances are she was cracking a book.
She was smart. She started reading and writing at the age of 2 when she started school. She got skipped a year.
She was always on the honor roll. She did very well in school.
She loved being smart. And she was a kid who had a plan. She knew what she wanted out of life.
She wanted to become a social worker.
In 2007, Cree graduated high school and went on to college in pursuit of her dream. But during Cree's sophomore year, her plans took an unexpected turn.
Cree was still in college when she got pregnant.
She met a guy named Andre Harris, and they had been dating for a while.
Hey. I got you something to satisfy that craving.
Bless you. I swear this is the only food that make me sick right now.
It wasn't like it was just a fling. I mean, they were serious. They was really serious. They were looking into marriage.
How are we gonna do this?
Together.
With Andre at her side and her family's support, Cree gave birth to a beautiful baby girl named Grace and finished college.
Everybody wanted her to succeed and, graduate and do what she had to do for her daughter, so she always had help.
Her sister was there. Her godmother was there. Everybody who loved Cree was there helping her.
Though she'd worked hard to achieve her dream, it wasn't without sacrifice.
Children bring a whole different dynamic to a relationship, and Andre and Cree were no different. things began to get a little more complicated and complex.
After my granddaughter was maybe like 4 or 5 years old, everything went south.
They grew apart. They grew different interests. They just didn't fit with each other after a while.
I don't think it was a bad breakup at the time, but, you know, he went his way and she went her way with my niece.
Andre wasn't trying to be some absentee father, some deadbeat dad. He was very determined to be in his daughter's life.
Though he'd have to do so from a distance. In early 2014, not long after the breakup, Cree packed her bags for Greensboro, North Carolina.
She went to North Carolina with one of her friends. I thought it was just a vacation, but then she was like, I'm making this permanently.
She told me that she had a job opportunity down there.
She had gone on a few interviews while she was down there and had gotten a job offer to work as a counselor with a teen outreach program.
Cree had always thrived with new adventures and opportunities, and this was right up her alley.
She's never been, you know, scared to try new things. So she went to North Carolina.
She wanted a new start. She wanted to start everything off new.
She was in a situation where she could reboot her life and just have a nice, fresh start.
Soon, Cree and her daughter were building a new life.
She had a good job. She had an apartment. She had a car.
She seemed to be doing fine down there.
She made a lot of friends quickly. When I met Cree, she had a couple friends already.
Including 23-year-old Patricia Bronson.
Moving to a new city can be tough, especially when you don't know anyone very well. But Cree and Patricia developed a strong friendship, and that made the move a lot easier.
It was through that strong friendship that Cree met 23-year-old Desmond Pendergrass.
Oh, girl, he's here. Let me get his attention.
Oh, Lord. How do I look?
Just breathe.
You gonna spring it on me like that?
She always liked the light-skinned guys. That was her thing.
You want a drink?
Sure. Thanks.
I see the connection between them. They were a cute couple.
The relationship blossoms, and before long, they decide to move in together.
She seemed to be happy and satisfied. Life is good for her.
So good that in October of 2015, Cree brought Desmond home to New Jersey to meet her family.
I thought they were a cute couple.
They seemed very lovey-dovey. I mean, they were holding hands and walking and talking.
They were also making plans.
I asked him, you know, what's his future with my sister? So he was like, I want to marry her, and I want her to have another baby.
Cree, her daughter, and Desmond became like a little family. And this is something that Cree wanted the whole time.
I was happy for her.
While Cree enjoyed being home with family, she knew that her life was in North Carolina and with Desmond.
They're going to have this happy life together. I was happy for her. Happy that she's finally met someone that she feels that she wants to marry. You know, life is good for her.
Though 8 months later, in June of 2016, Cree was back in New Jersey.
School had let out in June, and Cree had taken her daughter up to New Jersey to stay with the daughter's grandmother.
The summertime, when she got out of school, she allowed her to go to her father's family house, the grandmother, to stay with her for the summer. The last time I talked to Cree, everything was good.
Cree was happy while she was up here.
But now, at the beginning of July, almost 2 weeks after Cree returned to North Carolina, her family is starting to worry.
Cree's daughter had gotten sick in New Jersey when she was staying with her paternal grandparents, and they were desperately trying to reach Cree.
I was like, I can't believe this. So I kept calling and calling.
Desperate to reach Cree, Dee Dee enlists the help of her other daughter, Cree's older sister, Tenalisha.
I started reaching out to people. Have anybody spoken, talked, went to Cree house or anything? A lot of people said they seen her maybe when she came back from Jersey, but nobody had a recent contact with her.
Finally, when Cree's boyfriend Desmond reaches back out to Tenalisha, he delivers some stunning news.
Oh, thank God. Is Cree with you?
What? Not. She's not here.
I was asking him, where's Cree? He was like, oh, Cree left and went to Florida.
for moving to Miami. I can't believe she didn't tell you.
After moving to Greensboro, North Carolina, single mother Cree Asia Smith had taken a second chance at love with her new boyfriend, Desmond Pendergrass.
They're going to get married, and they're going to have this happy life together. Her, Desmond, and her daughter.
But now, 2 years after making her sudden, unannounced move to North Carolina, it looks as if Cree has done it again.
Cree Smith's family had not heard from her, and they were unable to contact her for a few days.
But when Cree's sister reached out to Desmond, he said that she had gone to Florida.
According to Desmond, she went to Florida for a job interview and ended up getting the job, and they wanted her to start the job immediately.
It's almost a repeat of how she ended up in North Carolina.
Isn't it great? We're all gonna move down at the end of the summer.
The company, they're gonna put her up and help her get a place.
Desmond's excitement does little to diminish Cree's sister's concern, though.
Asking him, have you spoken to Cree? Tell Cree to call me. Tell Cree to call her mother.
Nobody's talked to Cree in over a week.
Really?
Desmond is a little shocked when the family starts talking about Cree is missing.
When's the last time you talked to her?
I mean, I guess it's been a little while, but she said she was real busy.
He sounded like he was a little concerned about her.
But Cree's mother, Dee Dee, is more than a little concerned, especially after more than a dozen calls to her daughter go unanswered.
I kept calling and I couldn't get no answer. Couldn't nobody get in touch with her.
Finally, she decides to act.
At a certain point, the family begins to worry that something's not quite right.
Greensboro Police Department.
This trip in Florida, something may have happened to Cree.
I called the police department down there in Greensboro to put in for a missing person.
It's not like her not to call us.
Okay. Has she ever taken off before?
Well, yeah. Her move to North Carolina was out of the blue.
Dee Dee was forced to explain how Cree had more or less moved to North Carolina on a whim.
She just got sick of Jersey and she wanted a fresh new start. So that's why she went down to North Carolina.
Is it possible that she's just done that again?
No, not without Grace.
Cree always kept a check on her daughter.
She used to call her daughter 2 or 3 times a day, every day.
Nobody heard from Cree for like 2 weeks.
The lack of contact with her daughter was a pretty big flag.
It's not her personality to not even speak to her own child.
With a missing persons report in place, police in Greensboro waste no time opening up an official investigation.
Understandably, what they want to do is talk with her boyfriend, Desmond.
Mr. Pendergrass?
Yeah.
We need to ask you some questions about Cree Smith.
Sure, come on in.
The apartment looked lived in. It wasn't particularly clean, but that's not uncommon.
So we spoke with Cree's mother recently. She mentioned she was heading to Miami for a job interview.
Yeah, it was too good of an opportunity.
In his mind, she went down to get a job, got the job, she's doing her thing.
You wouldn't happen to have an address for her down there?
Yeah, hang on a sec. Here's this from the bank.
Her bank account's address on them had been changed to an address in Florida.
So now detectives thought maybe Cree's family was worried for no reason.
That's what it looked like. Somebody just left town and put all their stuff in the car and moved to Florida.
I've got to settle things here, and then I'm going to meet up with her down there.
It made sense. This seemed exactly like what she did last time.
We'll be in touch.
Please.
While Desmond's account seems genuine, there's only one way to find out if it's true.
I said, can y'all go inside and check the apartment in Florida to make sure everything was all right?
Detectives enlist the help of their counterparts at the Miami Police Department for a welfare check.
Police show up to the apartment where she's supposed to be staying. They go and knock on the door.
Mrs. Smith, Miami Police.
There's no answer.
It was dark and it looked like nobody was home.
It's a setback that won't deter officers from getting to the truth.
The police go and talk to the manager of the apartment because they want to get in.
What did you say the name was again?
Smith. Cree Asia Smith.
Are you sure that's the right name?
Yes, ma'am.
There's nobody who's living there or who has lived there by the name of Cree.
They don't have any record of her at all.
Cree hasn't moved to Miami. She has vanished without a trace.
It is not a crime to go missing. If you are over 18 years of age, in most states, privacy laws typically protect the rights of adults who voluntarily choose to remain out of contact with family and friends. Unless there's evidence of foul play, or the missing person is potentially a danger to themselves, police are not obligated to inform the family of the missing person's whereabouts if they are located. By July 3, 2016, 2 days since her mother filed a missing persons report, detectives investigating the disappearance of Cree Asia Smith believe they've tracked the single mother to an address in Miami, Florida.
Police show up to the apartment that's listed for Cree, where she's supposed to be staying.
But there's no answer to their knock, and no indication that Cree had ever lived there either.
The apartment office was contacted and indicated they had no record of her.
This leaves the cops scratching their heads.
Things get even more puzzling when detectives follow up on the clue that led them to the Miami apartment in the first place.
The address on Cree's bank account had been changed to the Florida address, but according to bank records, it had been done online, and Cree had never actually been in Florida at a branch at all.
So it became kind of obvious that she hadn't actually physically gone to Florida, that perhaps somebody had tried to make it look like she'd gone to Florida.
But who? The obvious first choice is her boyfriend, Desmond Pendergrass.
I mean, all of the information that was from Desmond.
But detectives could not rule out that Cree had been lying when she told Desmond that she was going to Miami.
Maybe she wanted to abandon Greensboro and abandon her relationship with Desmond. All kinds of people run away and leave their situation and try to get a new life.
Cree had actually did this more or less before when she up and moved to North Carolina 2 years earlier.
That's how she was. If she wanted to go somewhere or wanted to do something, she would just up and go.
However, when detectives circle back to Cree's family, they are adamant she didn't disappear on purpose.
Something's wrong, that she would not leave her baby. So I'm thinking, Lord, what could happen? What could be going on?
But without something more concrete, detectives are at a standstill.
Maybe she just ran away to Miami for a break.
Desperate for answers, the family takes matters into their own hands and drives the 500 miles to Greensboro in search of Cree.
My mother and her godmother, Diane, went down there. They made missing poster flyers. They gave it out to people.
We were all trying to find her down there, going around, putting up posters and, asking questions and trying to figure out what happened.
While in Greensboro, Cree's mother and godmother also visit the police station, urging detectives to continue searching for the missing 26-year-old.
They're like, no. This is totally out of the character of Cree to just go missing like this.
Something has happened to Cree because she would never be in a place where her family couldn't contact her about her daughter.
Still, detectives aren't so sure.
When was the last time you spoke to her?
Oh, I believe it was on the 15th. A couple of days after she went back home to North Carolina.
She called me, and it was a strange number, but I answered it anyway, because it was a North Carolina number, and it was her.
Hello? Hey, it's me. I'm sorry I didn't call in when I got in from Jersey.
I said, girl, what happened to you?
Was everything okay? Yes, nothing.
She said, yeah, everything's all right. Desmond's just getting on my nerves. And I said, okay.
I gotta go.
But
I'll talk to you later.
I didn't hear anything else from her. I called her a few times, and then finally, I she texted me and she said, I'm at work. I can't talk to you now, but I'll call you later.
Did she call back?
No.
So if Desmond was getting on her nerves, you think she just left him? Probably made up the Miami story on purpose?
Maybe, but that doesn't explain the rest of it.
She wouldn't lose communication with her family. She wouldn't lose communication with me.
At this point in time, detectives didn't really know what to think, so they decided they needed to learn more about Cree's life with Desmond.
They start by speaking to one of her closest friends, Denise Chrisman.
I first met Cree in Greensboro. From day one, we all clicked. That was like my partner in crime. You never seen Cree without Denise.
When detectives follow up with Denise, she's upfront about the nature of her friend's relationship.
We were into each other. That wasn't perfect.
There was ups and downs. There was breakups and makeups.
Denise also said that prior to her disappearance, Cree had been hinting that maybe Desmond wasn't the man for her.
She always talked about dating someone that was educated. Or she always talked about wanting somebody that wanted something for themselves.
I think she just left him, told Desmond she's going to Miami.
At first, yeah.
I just was like, she needed a break. And then when I got details of her mom, she was not picking up for her daughter. Her daughter was looking for her, trying to get in contact with her. That's when it all started hitting me.
And I just couldn't shake this feeling. Something happened. Something bad.
She don't go without talking to her daughter.
Like somebody did something to her.
Any idea who?
Yeah.
Denise had a name for detectives, but it wasn't Desmond.
It's Cree's friend, Patricia Bronson.
I'm very suspicious that she was involved.
Why do you think that?
She said she heard from Cree. All that stuff about Cree leaving town.
And I'm like, she's telling you she's not coming back. How are you the only one talking to this person? The way she was describing the details of it was like somebody that knows more than what they were saying.
Why would Patricia do something to Cree?
She was pretty obsessed with her.
And according to Denise, Patricia had made moves on Desmond too.
I thought that something was going on because I know how she is.
She basically said she's a flirt, but not an innocent one.
She wanted to be like her. She dressed like her. She acted like her.
She moved in on her man. It seemed like she wanted to take her place.
It's been 2 weeks since 26-year-old Cree Asia Smith vanished from Greensboro, North Carolina, and detectives have a new lead in their investigation.
A friend of Cree's had just implicated a woman named Patricia Bronson as the person behind Cree's disappearance.
There's no doubt. I'm convinced. There's nothing that could change my mind.
According to Denise, Patricia had her eye on Cree's boyfriend, Desmond Pendergrass.
Apparently, Patricia could be very hands-on with Desmond.
Could there be some type of love interest that would have given Patricia a motive to have wanted Cree off the scene?
Whether Desmond realized it or not.
Desmond always was a flirt, but I don't know if her and Desmond had something going on.
With Denise adamant about Patricia's involvement, detectives bring her in for questioning.
How would you describe your relationship with her?
We're pretty tight.
When was the last time you saw her?
Last month, around the 16th or so.
She said the last time she seen Cree was on a Thursday night, early Friday morning. She stated that she was in an apartment with Cree and Desmond.
This was around the same time that Cree had suddenly stopped returning anyone's phone calls.
Though that's not the only thing about Patricia's story that raises a red flag.
Patricia recalled that Cree and Desmond had been fighting, had been arguing.
You have any idea what they were fighting about?
No, they were fussing at each other though.
She did indicate it was not uncommon for them to fight.
But according to Patricia, this one was unusual, even for Cree and Desmond.
So it's like that now?
Girl, don't solve me.
Seriously?
Where have you been?
Seriously.
It was getting pretty intense. It was really escalating.
Hold on, Nikki.
Get the hell out of my damn face.
I should have never messed with you in the first place.
Okay, y'all.
I don't need this.
That's why on this night, the friend asked Cree if she wanted to leave with her.
Come on, just come stay at my house tonight and let him cool off.
No.
Are you sure?
They'll be fine. Trust me, he'll settle down.
Cree said, I'm okay, I'm stay here. So she left her.
Is that the last you saw her?
Yeah.
Were you worried?
No. I got a text message from her the next morning.
It was Cree saying that a family emergency had come up and she needed to go to New Jersey.
Was that message simply a decoy to disguise the fact that something had happened to Cree in North Carolina? Or had someone actually lured Cree back to New Jersey prior to her disappearance?
And does Patricia know more than she's leading detectives to believe? While detectives can't be sure, her statement gives them a critical data point.
With that, the police were able to establish that that was the last time anybody that we knew of had actually seen Cree. So now we have perhaps a point in time where she becomes missing.
When detectives subpoena the location data for Cree's cell phone, it seems to solve one piece of the puzzle.
Police decided to check the phone records. And what they find is Cree's phone has never left Greensboro.
Even more telling for detectives, the activity on Cree's phone dropped off dramatically after June 16th.
This coincides with the evening that Cree's friend Patricia witnessed her arguing with Desmond.
They saw very few calls, incoming calls, yes, but as I recall, there were just one or two outgoing calls, and they were made shortly after her disappearance, like within a day.
But who was using it? While Cree's phone records can't say for sure, there's one final avenue left for detectives to explore.
They eventually decided to dig a little deeper into her financial records.
Pulling Cree's transaction history proves to be the break detectives need.
There were 2 ATM transactions the early morning after her disappearance.
And guess what ATMs have? Cameras.
A lot was on the line here. Whoever was at that ATM had Cree's debit card.
Was it Cree herself? Had she just gone into hiding, or was it someone else?
You don't just give someone access to all of your money. Whoever had Cree's debit card had likely harmed Cree to get it.
By mid-July of 2016, almost a month after Cree Asia Smith vanished, detectives in Greensboro, North Carolina are on the verge of a breakthrough in the case.
And they found a couple of ATM transactions on her credit card. That really piques their interest.
Transactions that occurred on what detectives now know to be the day after anyone last saw her alive.
They pulled the surveillance footage to see if they could ID who it was that pulled money from her account.
And lo and behold, the person who has been using the bank card is Desmond.
They had been seen arguing right before she went missing. And now police caught him using her ATM card, withdrawing money the next day.
As the facts continue to mount up, it just becomes more and more evident that he may be the one who's responsible for Cree's disappearance.
A check of Desmond's criminal history only adds fuel to this theory.
The first thing that popped up on Desmond was a bad assault over in High Point, a neighboring city from Greensboro, where he had severely beaten a young lady. He had a history of violence. He was the kind of person who, if there was a disagreement, would probably resort to violence first.
Which makes detectives wonder, could the fight Cree's friend Patricia Bronson had witnessed been the tip of the iceberg?
Maybe he was arguing and fussing with her and then just killed her.
Though exactly what the fight was over remains unclear to detectives. They suspect what Cree told her godmother Diane shortly before her disappearance might offer a clue.
I just believe that she got sick of him, and she was trying to get rid of him, and he didn't want to leave.
Though it's not until Cree's close friend, Shaquilla Reyes, comes forward that they learn the real reason why Cree was sick of Desmond.
It had taken Shaquilla a while to get in touch with the police because she had been out of town when Cree first disappeared.
And I went back to Greensboro and I seen that she was missing. I'm like, okay, what's going on?
According to Shaquilla, Cree and Desmond's relationship was marred by distrust and jealousy.
He was always on his phone and you think texting girls and stuff like that. So she always argued about the phone, his phone. She probably was insecure because he cheated a lot. And I was a witness of some of it, you know, so I know what he did.
In addition to Desmond's infidelity, Shaquilla also said that Cree grew tired of Desmond's freeloading too.
He was not employed, to my knowledge, at the time that she disappeared.
She wants somebody got a job, a car, that somebody can support her.
While Shaquilla's account is compelling, it's not the reason she's chosen to come speak to detectives.
I knew he did something to her because Desmond sent me a video recording her while she's on the bed and she wasn't moving. It was before I even knew she was missing. She was face down and her pants was off. And he asked me a question. He said, do you like what you see? Because he know I like girls also.
At the time, Shaquilla thought it was some sort of a joke. But now she's convinced it was something far more sinister.
Then I went back to Greensboro and I seen that she was missing. I'm like, oh my gosh, she looked like she wasn't breathing in that video.
Despite a growing sense that Desmond has done something horrible to Cree, investigators still have no real proof.
We didn't have a dead body, just a missing person. We're trying to develop some evidence that we can present in the courtroom.
Desperate to build a case against Desmond, detectives circle back to what little evidence they do have, starting with her bank records.
They discovered that on the morning after she turned up missing, her debit card had been used at a home improvement store.
They went to the home improvement store and actually were able to pull up the purchase receipt to see what was actually bought.
The items on the receipt are eye-opening and stomach-churning.
Among the things bought were a handsaw and some heavy-duty construction-strength trash bags. That really piqued everybody's interest, like, wow, this might explain some things here.
All but convinced that Cree is dead, detectives figure it's about time they put the screws to Desmond, if they can find him.
I tried to reach out to him on different occasions. He stopped taking my phone calls. He blocked me on social media, so I couldn't say anything to him.
At this point, he's bouncing around.
He's trying to dodge everybody, from the police, my mother, me, Diane, everybody.
After locating Desmond on September 1st, 2 months after Cree was reported missing, detectives finally get the chance to sit him down for questioning.
Hey, we need to ask you some questions about Cree Smith. Have you found her? Not yet, but we're working on it.
Desmond's playing it cool, acting like he's concerned about Cree.
You care to tell us why you're using her debit card?
We're a couple. We use each other's accounts all the time.
Desmond says, hey man, Cree left the card behind with him so he could take care of his expenses and cover bills and that sort of thing.
Detectives don't buy it and decide it's time to take a look at one more piece of potential evidence that they haven't searched yet.
Desmond, why don't you stand up? We're gonna pat you down, make sure you don't have any weapons on you.
Located in his pocket was a set of car keys.
He's driving Cree's car, and that gives police probable cause to go and take a look.
He's not the world's smartest criminal. Showing up with her car was about as careless as you could be.
Desmond's carefully constructed cover-up continues to fall apart when detectives search Cree's vehicle.
Police pop the trunk, and what they find is very telling.
The trunk liner had stains, brownish stains, that appeared to be consistent with blood.
She was still alive. I think I wanted to believe that. I think I wanted to believe that because I didn't want to be hurt. I didn't want to be sad, and then I started thinking about her daughter and her mom and her sisters and her nieces, what they would be going through if they heard that type of news. Like, I didn't want to think about the worst. I was like, no, she's too strong. She's gonna be okay.
On September 1st, 2016, 2.5 months after Cree Asia Smith first disappeared, detectives in Greensboro, North Carolina have just made a startling new discovery.
Police want to follow up with Desmond, and when Desmond shows up, he is driving Cree's car.
The car has what appears to be blood in it, and so it then became, you're under arrest at this time.
With Desmond facing murder charges, detectives press him hard for a confession.
Driving her car with a trunk full of blood. How do you think that's gonna look to a jury? It's not what you think.
According to Desmond, once Patricia left, he and Cree did continue their argument, but he wasn't the aggressor.
He said she was attacking him, and he was trying to defend himself.
You expect us to believe that? Yes, I swear it's the truth.
She was a rather big girl, bigger than him, and he indicated that he'd gotten her in a chokehold to try to keep her off of him.
Cree, relax, man. I'll let you go. I ain't stop fighting. You gotta stop hitting on me too, right? Stop. Stop, Cree.
He says Cree was fighting him back. He was, trying to calm her down, and I ended up suffocating her.
Cree. Cree, baby, get up.
He was trying to make it look like he accidentally killed her, and then he freaked out and took her body and dumped it somewhere.
But detectives don't believe a word of it.
If that's going to be your story, the time to get it out is when she's dead. You call 911, and when the police arrive right there, that's when you tell the story. The fact that you wait really diminishes the value of that story.
Whether or not he's telling the truth about how she died, the news of Desmond's confession and arrest does offer some closure to Cree's friends and family, though it can do little to ease their pain.
This is a nightmare that nobody wanted to actually believe.
I was devastated. I felt like how I'm going to tell my niece that her mother's not coming back.
It hurted me so bad. I really wanted him to be gone.
When he said that Cree's dead, I wanted to go down there and kill him. That was my response.
The family may get their wish, too. At Desmond's arraignment, prosecutors make it clear that they plan to seek the maximum punishment the law allows.
Because of his prior violent felony conviction, he was eligible for the death penalty.
The threat of death row is more than enough for Desmond to seek out a deal.
Desmond's lawyer says if you'll take the death penalty off the table, Desmond will show you guys where Cree's body is.
But prosecutors leave that decision up to Cree's family.
The plea was good enough for me. I wanted to see her put to rest so I can say goodbye.
On October 13th, 2016, 4 months after Cree disappeared, Desmond leads detectives to a roadside a half hour outside Greensboro.
He said, "This is the spot right here."
They get out and search.
It's not long before they find something.
They see a large trash bag that's kind of caught up in some trees.
Inside are human remains, badly decomposed and partially dismembered.
Her legs had been severed in the upper parts of the thigh, and so her legs were not there.
An autopsy confirms that the remains are Cree's.
The DNA from the remains are compared against DNA from cheek swabs that the family members provided. And sure enough, it's a match.
The medical examiner also determines that strangulation was the probable cause.
It sounded like Desmond's story about choking Cree to death contained at least a grain of truth.
However, contrary to Desmond's claims, police and prosecutors are convinced the crime was no accident.
He either knocked her unconscious or somehow was able to subdue her enough so that he could actually strangle her.
Though once Cree was dead, Desmond found himself in a dilemma.
I would surmise that initially the plan was just to put her in the dumpster, and then he realized how heavy a dead body of that size is, and he was unable to do that.
He then goes out to the home improvement store and gets his supplies, his handsaw, his plastic bags, his duct tape, comes back to the apartment and dismembers Cree.
That totally freaked me out.
You had to be a very cruel person to not only kill her, but cut her up.
Then, once he was finally able to move the body, Desmond had disposed of it on the side of the highway.
He put it in the back of the car and took it 30 miles away from here and pulled over to the side of the road and then rolled it down that embankment.
All while trying to maintain the illusion that Cree is still alive.
Desmond kept the phone active. When people would call, he would let it go to voicemail because he didn't want to speak, obviously. And then select ones, he would actually send a text back.
Desmond was just trying to think quick on his feet. That wasn't quick enough, not for people that knew her. She wouldn't have just left, and she wouldn't have just left her daughter either.
On June 26, 2018, Desmond pleads guilty to murder in exchange for life in prison without the possibility of parole.
He can't do anything else. He can't hurt anyone else. And that's the good thing about it.
Still, Cree's friends and family struggle to understand the pain he's already put them through.
I really don't know why he did it. Why could you just walk away? You didn't think about your future. You didn't think about her daughter. You didn't think about her family.
Now Cree's daughter has to grow up without her loving mother, but thankfully, she is surrounded by her caring family.
A mother, a friend, a sister, an auntie. You took all that.
I miss you, baby. And I ain't gonna never let you die in spirit.
This hard-working single mom thought she'd found true love.
They connected so quickly.
You took care of her kids.
It was going to be an amazing future.
Instead, it ended in a horrific crime.
Hello, I need to talk now.
She was on the floor, bound by the hands and legs.
She had a plastic bag around her head.
They think the person's dead.
But how did it happen?
She went out to a club.
You could be in danger just because you were out having fun. She was a beautiful girl. She got a lot of attention.
Did someone follow her home?
Or was the trouble already there?
There are some guys who are very possessive.
Human beings are peculiar creatures. They construct prisons for themselves out of paper, debt, and lies. And when the walls finally close in, the things they do to escape are the most foolish, desperate acts you can possibly imagine. I have sat across the table from killers, con artists, and grieving families for decades. And I tell you, the truth is usually sitting right there in a room with you, hiding behind a bad lie. Now, let's examine the case of Melissa Casillas, a hard-working woman, an administrative assistant at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, living in Taos County, New Mexico. On Thursday, June 26, 2025, she vanishes. She does not just disappear into the thin mountain air. She leaves behind a stage play, and like all bad theater, the script is full of holes. The day starts at 6:15 in the morning. Melissa supposedly drives her husband, Mark, to his job at the laboratory. Mark is a superintendent, a hunter, a man who claims to know how to read the land. Keep that in mind. He tells the police they had a minor spat about her using an electronic cigarette. A minor spat. Spouses do not vanish forever over an electronic cigarette. Later, the story changes. He claims she cursed at him and told him to find his own ride home. First contradiction. The truth is a fragile thing, and Mark seems to drop it constantly. At 7:45 in the morning, their 18-year-old daughter, Sierra, wakes up and finds Melissa back at the house. Melissa claims she forgot her security badge, but here's the rub. Mark swore he watched her hand that very badge to the guard shack earlier. So, Melissa is lying to her daughter. Why? People lie when they're afraid or when they are hiding a plan. A few minutes later, at 8:02 in the morning, Melissa ushers in the beginning of the end. Her old cellular telephone is restored to its factory settings. Erased. Completely wiped. Now, who does that? Someone who is getting ready to disappear, or someone who is erasing a digital trail of abuse, infidelity, or financial ruin. Melissa was a mother. She loved her daughter deeply, especially after Sierra survived a horrific automobile accident years prior. Mothers do not just abandon their wounded children. They do not walk away unless the alternative is a fate worse than death, or unless someone else made that choice for them. Later that afternoon, just before 1 o'clock, Melissa is captured on a security camera dropping off a sandwich for Sierra at a coffee shop. She bumps her car into the concrete barrier. Hard. She is rattled. Her mind is 1,000 miles away. At 1:33, she sends a text message to Sierra. 5 minutes later, at 1:38, her brand new cellular telephone is factory reset. Wiped clean. Her online cloud storage is annihilated. That takes intent. That takes a level of digital destruction that speaks of pure desperation. When Sierra gets home at 3:30, the dogs are outside. The white car is in the driveway. Melissa ushers keys, her security badge, her purse, her wallet, and both of those wiped telephones are sitting right there on the table. But Melissa is gone. Missing from a house are her toothbrush, her reading glasses, and a 90-day supply of her thyroid medication. My, you leave your money, but you take your medicine. That implies a journey. That implies survival. Then enters Mark, the grieving husband, except he is not grieving. He is angry. When Melissa Usher's family arrives, he immediately starts bad-mouthing her. He claims she ruined them financially, that she racked up debt, that their wages were being garnished, and that their security clearances at the laboratory had just been suspended. Money. It is always money. I tell you, love is blind, but debt has perfect vision. It will poison a marriage faster than anything else. Mark paints a picture of a woman crumbling under the weight of her own failures, a woman who simply walked out on her life. But let us look at the evidence. The police find Mark Usher's hunting boots in the bedroom, sitting near a fish tank. There's fresh mud on them. Mark claims he has not worn them in ages, pointing to an imaginary spiderweb inside the boot. There is no spiderweb. Beside the boot is a dry drop of blood. A presumptive test comes back positive for blood. Mark gets defensive, asks for a lawyer, and suddenly remembers that Melissa might have spilled water from the fish tank to wet the old mud. You have to be kidding me. That is the kind of frantic backpedaling I have seen 1,000 times in the interrogation room. But the police check his alibi. His co-workers confirm he was at work. So he has an alibi for the physical act of abduction during the day. But that does not mean he is innocent. It just means he was not holding the knife or driving the car at that exact moment. Then a witness named Lloyd comes forward. He knows Mark and Melissa. He tells police he saw Melissa walking along Highway 518 that afternoon, near an old blue truck. She looked to be stumbling. And what does Mark do? The husband of a missing woman? He tells the police to ignore the tip. He says she was not wearing a white sweater, and she does not have a limp. And the police, in a display of sheer incompetence that makes my blood boil, listen to him. They do not check it out. A civilian tells a detective to ignore a lead, and the detective salutes and walks away. Bad police work is a disease, and it infected this case from day one. Days later, Mark suddenly decides a tip might be valid. He goes out, traces her out, and finds security footage from a house. The camera captures Melissa at 2:18 in the afternoon, walking briskly down the highway. She has her hair pulled back and is wearing a small backpack. She is alive. She is alone. For Mark, this is his golden ticket. He says, "Look, she walked away, just like I told you." But did she? Let's evaluate the psychology of this woman. She is drowning in debt. Her husband is described by others as egotistical and controlling. She is intercepting legal documents, hiding the financial truth. Why? Because she is terrified of his reaction. Control is a drug, and men like Mark are addicts. When an addict loses his grip, he lashes out. Did Mark finally push her to the edge? He admits to the police that he told her to leave if she was not happy. He changed the locks on the house a mere 3 days after she vanished. Who does that? You change the locks to keep someone out. You do not do that if you're praying for them to walk back through the front door. The family suspects Mark. Mark blames the family. He floats wild theories. He says she ran off with a contractor, then a photographer from Colorado. Then he claims some mysterious woman from Colorado showed up to give Sierra $50 for graduation, claiming psychic powers and hinting Melissa is alive. The police track this woman down, and she denies ever being in New Mexico, denies giving anyone $50, and denies knowing them. Lies build upon lies, stacked so high they block out the sun. And what about the other noise? A local man known for public intoxication, riding a horse, rambling about a decapitated body. The police talk to him a month later, through a metal gate, and dismiss him. A former boyfriend with a brain injury and a history of stalking. Dismissed. Theories about foreign spies targeting laboratory workers. Absolute nonsense. Distractions. The truth is local. The truth is intimate. The truth usually sleeps in the same bed as the victim. Melissa Casillas wiped her digital life from existence. She packed her survival gear, her thyroid medicine, and walked down a hot asphalt highway in the middle of the afternoon. People say she abandoned her daughter. I do not believe that for a second. I believe she was walking towards something, or running away from something so terrifying that leaving her beloved daughter behind was the only way to keep them both safe. Or perhaps she was walking to a meeting, a rendezvous that she thought would be her salvation, only to find the devil waiting in a blue truck. We have a husband who lies, who blocks investigations, and who controls the narrative. We have a local police department that takes orders from a suspect. And we have a vast, unforgiving desert that is very good at keeping secrets. I tell you, Melissa did not just vanish into thin air. Somebody knows the exact patch of dirt where her journey ended. And until that person looks in the mirror and decides they cannot carry the weight of that secret anymore, Melissa Casillas remains a ghost on Highway 518. Humans are strange creatures. They kill each other for the most ridiculous reasons you can possibly imagine. Sometimes it is for money. Sometimes it is for love. And sometimes It is simply because the opportunity presents itself to a predator who cannot control his darkest impulses. I tell you, in my years of looking at the worst humanity has to offer, the monsters do not hide in the shadows. They live right down the street. They date your sister. They sit at your dinner table. Welcome to Winnsboro, Texas, a small town where everybody knows everybody. Or at least they think they do. In a town like that, a secret is a hard thing to keep. But on May 4th, 2007, someone managed to keep a secret so dark it has haunted this community for over 15 years. Let us talk about Brittany McGlone, 19 years old, beautiful, driven, and working 2 jobs just to save up for nursing school. She worked an overnight shift at a distribution center, getting off before 5 in the morning. This is a girl who understands the value of hard work. She is not out looking for trouble. She is looking for a future. On this particular morning, she deviates from her routine. Instead of going home to sleep, she goes to the house of her boyfriend, Jeff Stogner. She wants to spend a little time with him before he has to drive 2 hours away to pick up his grandmother. That deviation in routine cost Brittany her life. By 3:30 in the afternoon, Jeff calls Brittany's mother, Patricia. He cannot reach Brittany. He comes home and finds her truck still parked outside. He walks into his bedroom. My. What he finds is a nightmare. Brittany is deceased. She was attacked in her sleep. The scene is violent. But I will not dwell on the gruesome details because the dead deserve our respect. And the man who did this deserves nothing but our absolute contempt. What matters is the psychology of the scene. The weapon, likely something heavy like a tire iron, is gone. Her clothes are exactly where she left them, except her underwear is missing. But the detail that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up? The killer took a shower in the bathroom down the hall. You have to be kidding me. You end the life of a promising young woman, and your next thought is to wash the blood off with her boyfriend's soap? That tells me this is not a crime of passion. This is cold, calculated, and comfortable. When you have a dead girl in a boyfriend bed, you look at the boyfriend. That is Homicide Investigation 101. Jeff and his stepfather say they left the house at 9 in the morning to get the grandmother. They claim Brittany was sleeping peacefully when they walked out the door. We checked the convenience store cameras along their route. The time stamps match their story. People lie, but video cameras do not. So we look at the others. The grandfather who had a dark, abusive history with Brittany. He was at work all day. The drug dealer who was supposed to drop off marijuana. He never showed up. We polygraphed them all. They pass. When the circle of people who knew she was in that house alone is that small, and you cross off the obvious names, you are left with a ghost in the room. Enter Chad Carr, 25 years old, dating Jeff High School age sister. He stopped by the house around 8:30 that morning to pick something up. They told him not to go inside because Brittany was sleeping. He claims he left. But when deputies see him later that afternoon at the crime scene, he is shaking. He is sweating. He is nervous. And when detectives finally sit him down, he does something that always makes me smile a very cold smile. He gives them a timeline of his day that is entirely too detailed. He went home to change clothes because of the weather. He went to get breakfast. He went to the eye doctor. When a suspect gives you their itinerary down to the minute, they are not helping you. They are trying to sell you a work of fiction. We check his story. He said he arrived early to his 10 o'clock eye appointment. The receptionist says he called in late and arrived at 10:20. The weather that morning was a mild 60 degrees. So his excuse for changing clothes is absolute garbage. There's a missing window of time in his day. 1 hour. Just enough time to drive 6 minutes to the house, commit a horrific act, wash himself in that shower, change his clothes, and go on about his business. And then there is his history. I will tell you this. Past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. Back in 2001, this same man visited a woman named Debbie in a trailer. He waited until she was vulnerable, asked her if anyone else was home, and then struck her in the head with a red jack handle. The exact type of weapon we believe was used on Brittany. He served time for it. He also served time for assaulting his ex-wife. This is a man who preys on women when he thinks nobody is watching. Chad Carr is a predator of opportunity. He did not go to that house to steal televisions or jewelry. He knew the adults were leaving. He knew a beautiful 19-year-old girl was asleep in that bedroom. He complains to his girlfriend that he is not allowed to sleep over, but Brittany is. Is it jealousy? Is it rage? Or is it simply the dark, twisted urge of a man who sees an open door and cannot resist walking through it? He tells investigators that they will never find his genetic evidence on that girl or in that room. Who says that? An innocent man says he did not do it. A guilty man who meticulously washed himself in the shower brags about the lack of physical evidence. But his own girlfriend, the sister of the boyfriend, noticed he smelled like her specific brand of shea butter body wash when he picked her up from school. He did not shower at her place that morning. He showered at the crime scene. For 15 long years, this case sat in boxes. Different sheriffs, different priorities. It makes my blood boil. Brittany McGlone deserved better from the system. In 2021, a new sheriff took over. By 2022, they finally slapped handcuffs on Chad Carr for capital murder. But the justice system is a machine, and sometimes the gears do not turn the way they should. A grand jury declined to indict him. They issued a no bill. He walked out a free man. But I will leave you with this. Double jeopardy does not attach to a grand jury proceeding. The file is still open. The investigators are still looking at the forensic evidence from that shower drain. Chad Carr may think he got away with it because he washed the blood down the pipes and kept his mouth shut. But secrets have a funny way of rising to the surface, especially in a small town. Brittany McGlone is not here to speak for herself anymore. But as long as there are detectives willing to open those boxes, her voice will not be silenced. My, you can run from your past, Chad, but you cannot hide from the truth forever. Human beings are fascinating, flawed, and often deeply disappointing creatures. They will take a human life for the most ridiculous reasons you can possibly imagine. A few stolen dollars, a bruised ego, or just because someone is standing in the way of their next bad decision. And when they do, they leave a mess behind. I tell you, murder is not a clean business. It leaves traces. It leaves ghosts. But what is truly unforgivable in this line of work is when the people sworn to find the truth decide to look the other way simply because it is convenient. My. You have to be kidding me. Assumption is the mother of all botched investigations. And the case of Spencer Irwin is a masterclass in how a badge does not always guarantee a conscience. Let us look at the victim. Spencer Irwin, a 30-year-old man, a son, a student, a human being trying to navigate the treacherous waters of addiction. He was battling alcohol. It is a demon I have seen destroy 1,000 lives in my time. But Spencer was trying. He wanted to go to a rehabilitation center. He wanted to help other people who had lost their way. He had a beautiful heart. He was the kind of young man who would stop and talk to a homeless stranger on a walking trail, bring them warm clothing and food, and try to give them hope. He wanted his own suffering to mean something, to save even one soul. Instead, his life was discarded like garbage behind a waste storage facility in Fresno, California, in August of 2024. They found him completely naked, face down in the dirt, at the bottom of a loading dock. Now, I have worked homicide for a very long time. When you find a nude body in the dirt in the middle of summer, your brain should immediately start sounding alarms. People do not simply strip down and die quietly in the shadows unless someone else is pulling the strings. But the responding officers from the local police department, they took one look, assumed he was just another transient drug user, and called an overdose. They did not secure the scene. They did not collect any surrounding evidence. A crime scene unit van pulled up to the location, took a look from a distance, and drove away. I tell you, laziness is a disease that infects an investigation and rots it from the inside out. Because of this blinding assumption, no autopsy was performed. A simple toxicological screening was ordered, and his body was hastily released. For 5 agonizing days, his mother, Kelly, waited to see her boy. By the time they let her near him, decomposition had taken a severe toll. She could only look at a photograph of his tattoo to confirm it was truly her firstborn son. Then he was cremated. All the secrets his physical body held were turned to ash. When the toxicology report finally came back weeks later, it shattered the police narrative. It showed a minimal blood alcohol level of 0.03, minor traces of non-lethal prescription medications, no illicit narcotics, no overdose. The medical examiner, a man with a bachelor degree in criminal justice and 0 medical training, ruled his death natural, citing sudden cardiac failure. A healthy 30-year-old man, suddenly dying completely naked in the dirt, miles away from his apartment. You have to be kidding me. When the police refuse to do their jobs, a grieving mother becomes a detective. Kelly Irwin is a force of nature. You do not stand in the way of a mother looking for the truth about her child. She walked the streets, knocked on doors, and pulled surveillance video from local businesses. Let us look at the timeline she uncovered, and let us look at the parasites that attached themselves to Spencer in his final days. On July 27th, Spencer was preparing for his rehabilitation program. His cellular telephone was malfunctioning, so he walked toward a provider store. He never made it. The last time his mother heard from him was the next morning. Then he vanished into thin air. Kelly found video surveillance from the loading dock area. On July 29th, a white automobile, a Kia Soul, drove into that dark commercial alley with its headlights completely turned off. It stayed for less than 15 minutes and quietly left. A vehicle creeping into a deserted lot at 10 at night in total darkness? That is not someone lost looking for directions. That is someone hiding a terrible secret. Later, Kelly found her son's distinctive undergarments lying right there in the dirt. She told the police. They did nothing, and the clothing mysteriously vanished. Let us analyze the cast of characters in Spencer's orbit. We have a man named Angel Gonzalez. Spencer met him 3 weeks prior in a detoxification program. Spencer, with his bleeding heart, let Angel stay in his apartment to keep him off the streets. When the landlord did a welfare check on July 31st, who was sitting comfortably in Spencer's empty apartment? Angel. Angel lied to the landlord, claiming Spencer was away at rehabilitation. He used Spencer's phone. Later, a social media account connected to Angel's exact birth date popped up as a suggested contact for Spencer's girlfriend. Look at the psychology of a drifter like Angel. He is an opportunist. He saw a kind, vulnerable soul in Spencer and latched on like a leech. What did he do when his host disappeared? He did not search for him. He made himself comfortable in the dead man's bed. Then we have a neighbor named Tyler, a man who ironically goes by the street name Happy. 2 weeks before Spencer died, Tyler allegedly broke into his apartment and stole his laptop computer, his gaming console, and his cash. When Spencer confronted him, Tyler sent armed thugs with bats and knives to intimidate the boy. The mother even found the stolen computer being sold on the internet under Tyler's real name. These are the people Spencer was surrounded by, predators, men who view human kindness as a weakness to be exploited. I have sat across the interrogation table from hundreds of men exactly like this. They do not possess a conscience. They operate purely on survival, greed, and a cold contempt for anyone weaker than them. If Spencer demanded his property back, or if they wanted whatever small amount of money he had left in his pockets, they would not hesitate to silence him permanently. And speaking of being silenced, a brave civilian witness who was at the scene when the body was discovered saw a distinct purple mark on the back of Spencer's neck. When an independent forensic pathologist reviewed the unredacted crime scene photographs, she noticed a straight red line right under his jawbone. A ligature mark. Strangling a human being is an incredibly intimate, violent, and personal act. It takes time. It takes physical effort. You have to literally watch the life fade from their eyes. Whoever did this likely overpowered him, suffocated the breath out his lungs. stripped him of his dignity and his clothes to humiliate him or destroy evidence, and dumped his body in the dirt like worthless garbage. The symmetrical patterns in the dirt around his arms, those were not the flailing movements of a dying man having a cardiac event. Those were drag marks, the result of a lifeless body being pulled from the back of a white automobile in the dead of night. The tragedy of this case is twofold. First, a young man who wanted nothing more than to heal himself and help the downtrodden was brutally taken from this world by cowards. But second, the justice system that was built to speak for the dead completely abandoned him. They looked at a man struggling with addiction and decided his life was not worth the paperwork. It sickens me. It truly does. But the truth has a funny way of refusing to stay buried. As long as his mother draws breath and continues to fight, those responsible should sleep with one eye open, because someone knows exactly what happened in the dark that night. The shadows cannot hide them forever, and eventually the knock on their door will come. I promise you that. And swabs of blood, sending them to the laboratory for forensic analysis. They also began interviewing family members and neighbors, trying to piece together the final hours of the couple's lives. Chow Tran, acting as the spokesperson for the family, explained that they had all gathered the previous evening to celebrate Long's birthday. According to Chow, the elderly couple had a wonderful time, staying until 10:30 before receiving a ride home. When asked if the couple kept large sums of cash at home, Chow admitted that while some traditional immigrants preferred to keep their savings close, his in-laws had very little left due to the failing business. Chapter 5, The Shadow of the Policy. A few days into the investigation, a routine phone call shifted the direction of the case entirely. Detective Stewart received a call from an insurance company inquiring about a life insurance policy associated with the deceased couple. To the detective's surprise, the policy was valued at over $1 million, and one of the primary beneficiaries was Chow Tran himself. When questioned about the substantial policy, Chow explained that it had been established to ensure the survival of the family's sewing business in the event of a tragedy. He cooperated fully with the police, providing a detailed timeline of his whereabouts and agreeing to provide his DNA and fingerprints. When the laboratory results returned, the DNA found on the marijuana cigarette at the crime scene did not match Chow, any family member, or any profile within the national database. Without a match, the investigation began to stall. Detectives interviewed more than 50 people, but no solid leads emerged. The months stretched into years, and the files were placed in the cold case archives. For 2 years, the apartment remained quiet, and the memory of Long and Hong lived on only in the hearts of those who loved them. Chapter 6, The Unlikely Witness. The breakthrough came in the year 2015 from an entirely unexpected source. In Houston, Texas, a young man named Willie Guillory was arrested for a felony involving the theft of a horse. Because he was now an adult facing a felony charge, his DNA was entered into the national database. Within days, the system flagged a perfect match between Willie's DNA and the marijuana cigarette left at the Arlington crime scene 3 years prior. At the time of the murders, Willie had been only 16 years old, which explained why his profile had not been in the system during the initial investigation. Detectives immediately brought him in for questioning, confronted with the scientific evidence placing him inside the apartment. The young man broke down in tears and confessed. "I was there," Willie admitted, his voice trembling. "I did it, but I did not do it alone. My uncle, Bobby Guillory, brought me along. He told me we were going to help someone do a job in Arlington." Willie explained that his uncle had been given a key to the apartment to make the entry look seamless. The plan was to stage a burglary, leaving behind a bandana, the pills, and the beer bottle to throw the police off the scent. However, when the couple returned home earlier than expected, the situation escalated into violence. After incapacitating the couple, Bobby and Willie used duct tape to secure them in the closet before fleeing back to Houston. When asked why they would target two elderly strangers, Willie revealed a name that sent chills down the detective's spines. Daphne Wright, the spiritual advisor. Chapter 7, The Spiritual Loan Shark. According to Willie, Daphne Wright had been the driving force behind the entire plot. She had approached Bobby Guillory, knowing he was facing severe financial difficulties after losing his job. She promised him $10,000 to carry out the deed, claiming that the couple owed her a vast sum of money and refused to pay. On the 16th of December, in the year 2015, detectives arrested 52-year-old Bobby Guillory at his home in Katy, Texas. Faced with the arrest warrant and the confession of his nephew, Bobby admitted to his role in the crime. He portrayed Daphne as a ruthless figure who demanded absolute obedience from her clients. Bobby explained that the debt owed to Daphne by the family business had ballooned to between $150,000 and $280,000. Daphne had run her spiritual services on credit, and when the family could not produce the funds, she discovered the existence of the $1 million life insurance policies. She realized that the only way to recover her money was through the tragic demise of the policyholders. But the most shocking revelation came when Bobby explained how Daphne had obtained the key to the apartment. She got it from Chow Tran. Bobby stated simply, he was the one who gave her the key. Chapter 8, The Trial and the Truth. The revelation of Chow's involvement forced detectives to reevaluate everything they knew about the family dynamic. They obtained financial records showing that shortly after receiving the insurance payout, the sewing business folded, and Chow purchased a beautiful new home. Faced with the mounting evidence, Chow, accompanied by his attorney, agreed to cooperate with the prosecution in exchange for immunity. Chow painted a picture of a family gripped by fear. He claimed that they believed Daphne possessed genuine mystical powers and were terrified that she would place a devastating curse on their children if the debt went unpaid. According to Chow, Hong Li had even offered to sacrifice herself so the family could collect the insurance money to satisfy the spiritual advisor. While investigators found the idea of Hong volunteering for such a fate difficult to believe, they recognized that Chow's testimony was essential to securing a conviction against the mastermind behind the tragedy. In August of the year 2019, the trial of Daphne Wright began. The courtroom was filled with members of the community, seeking closure after years of unanswered questions. Chow took the stand, describing the overwhelming control Daphne held over their lives and decisions. The defense argued fiercely that Chow was using Daphne as a scapegoat to shield himself from his own greed, pointing out that the $850,000 of insurance money had gone directly into his pockets. Despite the intense cross-examination, the jury ultimately found Daphne Wright guilty of capital murder. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Chapter 9, The Lessons of the Journey. Though the legal proceedings brought a measure of closure, the absence of Chow Tran from the prison cells left a lingering sense of incompletion for the investigators who had dedicated years to the case. Yet, the story of Long Nguyen and Hong Li remains a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the importance of community. The tragedy served as a solemn lesson about the dangers of desperation and the importance of seeking help through open, transparent channels. The Vietnamese community in Arlington rallied around the remaining family members, offering support, understanding, and love as they worked to heal from the deep wounds of the past. In the end, the memory of the gentle couple who had traveled across the ocean in search of a brighter future is not defined by the darkness of their final hours, but by the warmth, dedication, and kindness they shared with everyone they met. The light of their legacy continues to shine in quiet, industrious streets of Arlington, a reminder that even in the face of profound loss, truth, justice, and community solidarity will always prevail. In the heart of Texas, where the blue bonnet flowers paint the landscape in gentle shades of azure and the warm summer. Breeze carries the scent of sweet prairie grass. There lies the vibrant city of Arlington. It is a place where many cultures gather, creating a beautiful tapestry of human life. Among those who found a home in this welcoming community were Long Nguyen and his beloved wife, Hong Lee. They had crossed the wide ocean from Vietnam in the year 2000, carrying nothing but their cherished family, their time-honored traditions, and an enduring hope in the American dream. For more than a decade, their lives were a testament to the power of love, hard work, and unity. Long was a man of gentle quietude, whose eyes crinkled with warmth whenever he looked at his grandchildren. Hong was the heart of the home, a woman whose kitchen was always filled with the comforting aroma of traditional spices and whose laughter could brighten the gloomiest of days. Together, they established a commercial sewing business, pouring their hearts into every stitch, creating beautiful garments that eventually caught the attention of major global creators, including the famous Disney enterprises. They lived surrounded by their 3 children and their grandchildren, enjoying the simple blessings of family gatherings, birthday celebrations, and evening walks through the quiet neighborhood. To their neighbors and the local Vietnamese community, they were the very definition of kindness, always ready to offer a helping hand or a warm smile to anyone in need. The gathering storm. As the years passed, the tides of fortune began to shift. By the year 2011, the sewing business encountered difficult times. The lucrative commercial contracts began to fade, and the steady stream of work slowed to a trickle. For Long and Hong, the business was not merely a source of income. It was a legacy they wished to leave for their descendants. In times of deep worry, people often reach back to the ancient wisdom of their ancestors. In many traditional cultures, when family harmony or livelihood is threatened, it is customary to seek the guidance of a spiritual advisor. It was through this path of hope that the family sought to restore their good fortune. Looking through a local Vietnamese newspaper, Chow Tran, the son-in-law who helped manage the business affairs, found an advertisement for a spiritual advisor located in Houston, some 250 miles away. The advisor, a woman named Daphne Wright, promised to lift heavy burdens, remove persistent misfortune, and bring back the light of prosperity. Eager to help his family, Chow made the journey to Houston. The rituals performed seemed to offer a glimmer of hope, a promise that the dark clouds would soon clear. But as the months marched on, the promised prosperity did not return. Instead, a complex web of financial commitments began to grow, binding the family to the spiritual advisor in ways they had never anticipated. A call in the early morning. On the morning of June 10th, 2012, the sun rose gently over Arlington, casting long, golden shadows across the quiet apartment complex where Long and Hong resided. It was a Sunday, a day usually reserved for rest and family peace. Yet an uneasy quiet hung over the residence. At exactly 7:29 in the morning, the emergency dispatchers received a call from Chow Tran. He was worried about his elderly in-laws, who had not answered their door. He explained to the operator that his father-in-law was in his 70s and that his family had gathered outside, growing increasingly anxious as they noticed an open window. When the responding police officer, Officer Weller, arrived at the scene, he immediately felt the unusual gravity of the situation. It was far too early for a routine welfare check, and the sight of an entire family waiting anxiously outside the apartment was deeply moving. Weller, a dedicated officer with 14 years of experience, approached the front door with a quiet prayer for the safety of the residents inside. Entering the apartment, he called out, but only silence answered his voice. The living area appeared in disarray, with items scattered as if a sudden storm had passed through the rooms. Weller walked through the kitchen and the bathroom, finding them empty. Finally, he approached the bedroom. At first glance, the room seemed vacant, but as he turned to leave, his flashlight caught hand smudges on the wall, Next to a small closet, with a heavy heart and a profound sense of duty, Officer Weller opened the closet door. There, resting quietly in the darkness, were Long and Hong. They had passed away together, bound in their final moments by the cruel hands of fate. The scene was incredibly solemn, a tragic end to a beautiful journey of love and devotion. Weller stepped out into the living room, his heart filled with grief for the sweet couple, and called for his supervisors and the investigation team. The search for truth. The investigation was handed to veteran homicide detectives, including Detective Stewart, a man with 21 years of experience in seeking justice for those who could no longer speak for themselves. The community was deeply shaken. How could such a gentle, loving couple, who had no enemies and spent their lives doing good, meet such a tragic end? Initially, the scene presented confusing clues. There was a light blue bandana wrapped around a beverage bottle, a detail that suggested the involvement of local youth groups or gangs who often left such symbols. Behind, there were also scattered items that hinted at a robbery gone wrong. However, the detectives, with their years of wisdom, felt that something was not entirely right. The crime seemed far too personal, and the scene felt almost too perfectly arranged, as if someone were trying very hard to tell a specific story. As the days turned into weeks, the detectives worked tirelessly, interviewing dozens of neighbors, friends, and family members. They collected forensic samples, including DNA from a small item left at the scene, hoping it would match someone in the national database. Unfortunately, the search yielded no immediate matches. The database, which only recorded those with previous major offenses, remained silent. During this quiet period, the community rallied around the surviving family members. The memory of Long and Hong served as a guiding light, reminding everyone of the importance of kindness, faith, and mutual support. For 2 long years, the case remained unresolved, but the detectives never lost hope. They knew that truth, like the morning sun, would eventually break through the darkest night. The thread of justice. In the autumn of 2015, a completely unrelated and somewhat unusual event occurred in the city of Houston. A young man named Willie Guillory, who was 16 years old at the time of the tragedy in 2012, was arrested for a minor offense involving the unauthorized taking of a horse. Because he had now reached adulthood, and this was classified as a significant offense, his DNA profile was entered into the national database. Within days, the system generated a match. The DNA found on the item at the crime scene in Arlington belonged to Willie Guillory. Detectives immediately traveled to interview the young man. When confronted with the gentle but firm evidence of his presence in the apartment, Willie broke down. He revealed that he had been led astray by his uncle, Bobby Guillory, a man who was struggling financially and had been manipulated by the spiritual advisor, Daphne Wright. Bobby was arrested shortly after, and he too chose to speak the truth. He confessed that Daphne had offered him $10,000 to carry out the act, driven by an overwhelming desire to collect on the couple's substantial life insurance policies, which were valued at over $850,000. The keys to the apartment had been left under a mat, a tragic detail that pointed to a deeper betrayal within the extended family circle. The triumph of peace. The trial of Daphne Wright began in August of 2019. It was a solemn occasion that brought together the members of the Arlington community. Chow Tran, who had been granted immunity in exchange for his full cooperation, testified about the immense psychological pressure and the manipulation his family had experienced. Under the influence of the advisor, the defense argued that the responsibility lay elsewhere, but the jury saw through the complexity of the scheme. They recognized the tragic consequences of greed and the manipulation of ancient beliefs. Daphne Wright was convicted of major offenses and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Though some questions remain regarding the full extent of everyone's involvement, the resolution of the case brought a profound sense of peace and closure to the community. The story of Long Nguyen and Hong Lee became a powerful lesson in the value of family unity, the dangers of misplaced trust, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. Today, in the quiet neighborhoods of Arlington, the legacy of the gentle weavers of dreams lives on. Their children and grandchildren carry forward their traditions of kindness, hospitality, and unconditional love. The community remembers them not for the tragedy that took them away, but for the beautiful, inspiring lives they lived, proving that love is indeed stronger than the deepest shadow, and that justice will always find its way home. The summer sun in northern Texas rarely showed mercy, even in the early hours of the morning. On the 10th of June, 2012, in the city of Arlington, the air was already thick with a heavy, clinging heat. At exactly 7:29 in the morning, a phone rang in the quiet, sterile room of the emergency dispatch center. The voice on the other end belonged to Chow Tran, a 38-year-old immigrant from Vietnam. His voice trembled, a delicate thread of panic woven through his heavily accented English as he requested a welfare check on his elderly in-laws, Long Nguyen and Hong Lu. "Can you give me their names?" the dispatcher asked, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. "My father-in-law's name is Long," Chow replied, carefully spelling out the letters one by one. "L-O-N-G, last name W-N-U-I-N. He is 70-something right now. My wife, my son." They went a look. They saw everything fallen down inside. Chow had sent his teenage son to knock on the apartment door just moments earlier. The boy had knocked repeatedly, his knuckles bruising against the cheap wood. But no sound came from within. The silence was heavy, almost suffocating, as more family members gathered in the narrow breezeway of the apartment complex. Their worry hardened into absolute terror. They noticed that one of the front windows was slightly open, a gap that seemed to whisper of some unseen intrusion. The responding officer, a dedicated public servant named Weller, arrived quickly, having served the community for 14 years. Weller was accustomed to the mundane nature of welfare checks. Usually, they ended with a sheepish resident apologizing for a dead phone battery or a long sleep. But this morning felt different. Upon entering the apartment, the signs of a struggle were immediately apparent. The living room was in complete disarray. Compact discs were scattered across the floor like discarded scales. Furniture was overturned, and a sense of cold violation hung in the air. Weller called out, his voice echoing flatly against the walls. There was no answer. He checked the kitchen, then the bathroom, finding nothing. The only room left was the master bedroom. Weller stepped into the bedroom, shining his flashlight into the dim corners. Initially, he saw nothing unusual and began to turn around, relieved at the thought that perhaps the elderly couple had simply gone for an early morning walk to enjoy the cool breeze. But as he turned, his flashlight caught something on the wall next to a small, unassuming closet. There were smudges, dark, desperate handprints. An instinct, honed by over a decade of police work, told Weller to pause. Every fiber of his being urged him not to open that closet door, but duty compelled him. He reached out, turned the handle, and pulled. Inside the cramped space lay Long Nguyen and Hong Lu. They were bound tightly, their bodies hog-tied with heavy silver duct tape that wrapped around their limbs, their heads, and their mouths. There was blood splattered across the walls and floor. In that single, frozen second, Weller knew they were gone. The seasoned officer walked out of the bedroom, his mind blank with shock. He stood in the middle of the empty living room, unable to speak, unable to even lift his radio to call for help. When he finally found his voice, he requested a supervisor in the crime scene unit. Chapter 2, The Dream and the Shadow. To understand how this tragic end befell Long and Hong, one must look back to the year 2000, when they first arrived in the United States. Like many before them, they had left Vietnam to seek a peaceful, prosperous future for their 3 children and grandchildren. They chose Arlington, Texas. a bustling city in Tarrant County known for its vibrant and supportive Vietnamese community. The first major wave of Vietnamese immigrants had arrived in the region after 1975, following the fall of Saigon. Over the decades, they built a thriving cultural enclave, establishing businesses, temples, and tight-knit neighborhoods where the old traditions could coexist with modern American life. Long and Hong saw this as the perfect place to build their legacy. With the help of their son-in-law, Chow Tran, who spoke the best English in the family, they established a commercial sewing business. Chow became the face of the enterprise, negotiating contracts and managing relations with external partners. For nearly 10 years, their hard work rewarded them. They even secured a highly lucrative contract to manufacture garments for a global entertainment giant, Disney. They were living the American dream. However, by the year 2011, their fortunes began to shift. The contract with Disney was lost, and the business entered a steep, devastating decline. As bills accumulated and resources dwindled, the family sought a solution rooted in the ancient spiritual traditions of their homeland. For thousands of years, many East Asian cultures have maintained a deep belief in spiritual guardians, ancestral blessings, and the power of spiritual advisors to realign one's fortune. When a family faces a major crisis, such as financial ruin or legal trouble, they often seek the guidance of a spiritual medium to lift perceived curses and restore harmony. In their search for help, Chow Tran and his mother-in-law, Hong Lu, found an advertisement in a local Vietnamese newspaper for a spiritual advisor based in Houston, approximately 250 miles away. The woman, Daphne Wright, claimed she possessed a unique ability to remove negative curses and bestow blessings of wealth and protection. Encouraged by Hong, Chow traveled to Houston to meet Daphne at her home. She performed an elaborate ritual, promising that their business would soon recover. The family returned to Arlington filled with renewed hope, believing that their dark days would soon pass. They had no idea that their search for spiritual salvation would instead introduce a predatory force into their lives. Chapter 3. The Stage Scene. When the homicide investigators arrived at the apartment on the 10th of June, they were confronted with a scene of immense violence. Detective Stewart, a veteran investigator with 21 years of experience in the homicide division, noted that the victims had suffered severe blunt force trauma to their heads, likely inflicted by a heavy tool like a hammer. Yet, as the forensic team meticulously processed the apartment, several details began to seem out of place. On the coffee table in the living room lay a plate of crushed prescription pills, arranged as if they were meant to be consumed. Nearby, a partially smoked marijuana cigarette rested in an ashtray, and a blue bandana was wrapped tightly around a beer bottle. To an inexperienced eye, these items suggested a burglary committed by local gang members. Arlington did have active youth gangs known for extortion and robbery, and the light blue bandana was a color often associated with these groups. However, Detective Stewart and his team remained deeply skeptical. Sometimes things seem too perfect, Detective Stewart later reflected. Most gang members do not leave their signature colors so neatly displayed at a crime scene. It felt staged. The autopsy performed at the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's office confirmed the investigators' suspicions. While the blunt force trauma was severe, it was not the cause of death. Hong Lee's face had been wrapped in 25 feet of duct tape and Long Nguyen's in 10 feet. They had died of suffocation. The cruelty of the act suggested a deeply personal motive rather than a random robbery. As investigators interviewed the family, Chow Tran remained the primary spokesperson. He explained that the family had gathered the previous evening to celebrate his father-in-law's birthday. According to Chow, the elderly couple had enjoyed themselves, leaving the party around 10:30 in the evening when another relative drove them home. When questioned about potential enemies or financial assets, Chow claimed the family had no enemies and possessed very little money at home. He mentioned that Vietnamese immigrants often kept cash at home due to a historical distrust of financial institutions, but insisted their sewing business had been struggling so deeply that there was little wealth left to protect. The investigation took a dramatic turn when Detective Stewart received a routine call from an insurance company. It revealed that Long and Hong carried substantial life insurance policies totaling $1 million. The primary beneficiary of these policies was none other than Chow Tran. Despite this discovery, Chow and his family possessed airtight alibis for the night of the murders. They had remained together, playing cards until late into the night. Forensic samples, including DNA and fingerprints collected from the family, did not match the biological evidence recovered from a marijuana cigarette or the duct tape when the DNA profiles were run through the Federal Bureau of Investigation's database. No matches were found. For 2 long years, the case remained cold. The files sat on a shelf, silent witnesses to an unsolved tragedy. Chapter 4, The Catalyst of Justice. The breakthrough came in October the year 2015, from an entirely unexpected source. In a rural area near Houston, a young man named Willie Guillory was arrested for a felony charge involving the theft of a horse. Because he was now an adult facing a felony conviction, his DNA profile was entered into the national database. Within days, the system flagged a perfect match between Willie Guillory's DNA and the saliva found on the partially smoked marijuana cigarette left at the Arlington crime scene in 2012. At the time of the murders, Willie had been only 16 years old, which explained why his profile had not been in the system during the initial investigation. On the 17th of October, 2015, detectives brought Willie in for questioning. Initially defensive, the young man broke down in tears when presented with the scientific certainty of the DNA evidence. He confessed to his presence in the apartment, but insisted he had not acted alone. Willie revealed that his uncle, 49-year-old Bobby Guillory, had recruited him for a job in Arlington. Bobby had claimed they were going to help a friend resolve a financial dispute. Willie explained that his uncle possessed a key to the apartment, allowing him to enter unchallenged and stage the scene to look like a gang-related burglary. "The plan my uncle came up with was to throw stuff around," Willie explained. "We brought the beer bottle, the blue bandana, the pills, and the marijuana to make it look like thugs did it." Willie described how they waited in the darkness. When the elderly couple entered the apartment, Willie ran forward to prevent Hong from screaming, while Bobby physically overpowered and incapacitated Long. They then bound the victims with duct tape, moved them into the closet, and fled back to Houston. When asked why they would commit such an act, Willie pointed directly to a woman named Daphne Wright. He explained that Daphne was a close associate of his uncle and had commissioned the crime because the victims owed her a significant sum of money. Chapter 5, The Spiritual Loan Shark. With Willie's confession, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. Investigators traveled to Katy, Texas, to arrest Bobby Guillory. Confronted with his nephew's statement and impending DNA testing, Bobby also confessed. Bobby, who had no prior criminal record, expressed deep remorse and terror. He explained that he had been unemployed, desperate, and facing homelessness when Daphne offered him $10,000 to carry out the attack. According to Bobby, Daphne Wright was far more than a spiritual advisor. She operated as a spiritual loan shark. Over the course of a year, as the family's sewing business continued to fail, Chow Tran and Hong Lu had repeatedly purchased her spiritual services on credit. The debt had ballooned to an astronomical sum between $250,000 and $280,000. Daphne, a commanding and intimidating figure who controlled her household with an iron will, refused to write off the debt. Upon learning of the substantial life insurance policies held by the elderly couple, she devised a plan to eliminate them so that the family could collect the insurance payout and settle their debt with her. When detectives arrested Daphne at her Houston home, they discovered detailed financial ledgers. These documents revealed that she routinely charged clients tens of thousands of dollars for rituals, blessings, and the removal of curses. The most shocking revelation emerged during subsequent negotiations with prosecutors. Chow Tran, facing potential capital murder charges, agreed to cooperate in exchange for immunity. He claimed that the pressure from Daphne had been unbearable, describing her as a manipulative force who exerted psychological control over his mind and body. Chow even asserted that his mother-in-law, Hong Le, had voluntarily offered to sacrifice herself so the family could collect the insurance money to protect them from Daphne's spiritual wrath. Investigators found this claim highly implausible, believing instead that Chow had actively participated in a conspiracy to secure the financial windfall of $850,000, which he subsequently used to purchase a new home after his in-laws' business dissolved. Chapter 6: The Verdict and the Legacy. In August of the year 2019, the trial of Daphne Wright began. The courtroom was filled with tension as Chow Tran took the stand as the prosecution's star witness. He depicted Daphne as a ruthless extortionist who would stop at nothing to secure her money. The defense argued vigorously that Chow was the true instigator of the crime, highlighting that he had received complete immunity and had kept the entirety of the insurance proceeds. They argued that he had placed a key under the doormat for the killers and had manipulated the situation to rid himself of his debt and his in-laws. Despite the controversy surrounding Chow's immunity deal, the jury focused on the overwhelming evidence of Daphne's role as the coordinator of the murder-for-hire plot. In September of 2019, Daphne Wright was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Bobby and Willie Guillory also faced severe legal consequences for their direct involvement in the physical act. Though Detective Stewart and his team felt a profound sense of accomplishment in bringing the immediate perpetrators to justice, the immunity granted to Chow Tran remained a bitter pill to swallow. "It will never sit well with me that Chow Tran is not in prison," Detective Stewart remarked. "But what is done in the dark eventually comes to light. Everyone must ultimately answer for their actions." The story of Long Nguyen and Hong Lu remains a somber reminder of the vulnerabilities of the immigrant experience, where the earnest pursuit of the American dream can sometimes be exploited by those who prey on ancient beliefs and human desperation. Yet, through the meticulous work of dedicated investigators and the unexpected alignment of forensic science, the truth was ultimately revealed, ensuring that those who orchestrated the tragedy could no longer hide in the shadows. The story of the Nguyen and Lu family is a profound testament to the power of family bonds, the pursuit of a shared dream, and the ultimate triumph of justice over adversity. It is a narrative that spans continents and decades, woven with threads of hope, hard work, and the rich cultural traditions that travel with us wherever we choose to call home. Through their journey, we find deep lessons about the importance of integrity, the dangers of looking for easy answers in times of trouble, and the enduring strength of a community that stands together. Long Nguyen and Hong Lu were a devoted couple who shared a deep, lifelong love. In the year 2000, they made the monumental decision to leave their homeland of Vietnam and journey to the United States of America. They did not travel alone. They brought with them their cherished children, their time-honored traditions, and a quiet determination to build a beautiful legacy for the generations to follow. They settled in the vibrant city of Arlington, located in Tarrant County, Texas. Arlington was a bustling metropolis known for its wonderful mixture of diverse cultures, including a large and supportive Vietnamese community. This community had grown steadily since the late 20th century, with many families establishing roots, supporting one another, and creating thriving local businesses. For Long and Hong, Arlington felt like the perfect place to establish their commercial sewing business. They were hardworking, kind, and deeply respected by everyone who knew them. To help run the business, They enlisted the help of their son-in-law, Chow Tran, a 38-year-old man who spoke fluent English and became the welcoming face of the enterprise, handling contracts and coordinating with local partners. For nearly a decade, their efforts were rewarded. The family secured a highly lucrative contract to manufacture garments for a global entertainment giant, bringing joy and prosperity to their household. They felt they had truly achieved the American dream. However, by the year 2011, the economic landscape began to shift, and the sewing business faced unprecedented challenges. The major contract was lost, and the steady stream of income began to dwindle. In times of great financial pressure, it is natural for individuals to seek guidance and comfort. Long and Hong, holding fast to the traditional beliefs of their heritage, hope to find a spiritual path to restore their family's good fortune. In many cultures, spiritual advisors are called upon during major life transitions or periods of hardship to offer hope, peace, and a sense of protection. Searching for assistance, Chow Tran and his mother-in-law discovered an advertisement for a spiritual advisor named Daphne, who operated out of Houston, a city located about 250 miles away. Promising to lift obstacles and bring positive energy, Daphne quickly gained the family's trust. Chow traveled to Houston for a consultation, and the family felt a renewed sense of hope. Yet, as the business struggles continued, a deeper challenge emerged. The family found themselves increasingly reliant on these rituals, accumulating a substantial financial obligation to the advisor that grew to between $200,000 and $50,000 and $280,000. On a warm morning in June in the year 2012, a sudden silence fell over the family home. Worried when the elderly couple did not answer their door, Chow Tran contacted the local authorities to request a welfare check. Officer Weller, an experienced member of the Arlington police force, arrived quickly at the quiet apartment. Upon entering, the officer noted that the home was in disarray, suggesting a burglary had taken place. In a small closet in the bedroom, the officer made a somber discovery. Long Nguyen and Hong Lu had passed away. The loss of the beloved couple sent shock waves of grief through the community. They were known as gentle, generous people who had no enemies. Detective Stewart, a veteran homicide investigator with 21 years of experience, was assigned to the case. From the beginning, the crime scene presented several unusual elements. A light blue bandana wrapped around a beverage bottle, and other items had been left in plain sight, seemingly pointing toward local gang activity. However, Detective Stewart and his team remained analytical and cautious. They suspected that these clues were too obvious and might have been staged to mislead the investigation. The investigators began the meticulous process of gathering evidence, collecting genetic markers and fingerprints, and interviewing more than 50 family members, neighbors, and associates. Chow Tran explained to the detectives that on the night of the tragedy, the family had gathered to celebrate his father-in-law's birthday. The elderly couple had enjoyed a wonderful evening and were driven home around 10:30 in the evening. As the investigation deepened, detectives discovered that a life insurance policy valued at $1 million existed, with Chow Tran named as a beneficiary. While this discovery required careful examination, the family members cooperated fully, providing genetic samples and detailed timelines of their whereabouts, which initially showed no direct link to the crime. For 2 years, the case remained quiet, but the dedicated investigators never gave up. In the year 2015, a breakthrough occurred. A young man named Willie Guillory, who had recently been convicted of an unrelated felony, had his genetic profile entered into the national database. The system identified a match between his profile and the genetic material found on an item left at the crime scene in 2012. Willie, who was only 16 years old at the time of the incident, was brought in for questioning. When presented with the scientific evidence, he became emotional and cooperative. He revealed that he had traveled to Arlington with his uncle, Bobby Guillory, On the night of the incident, Willie explained that they had been provided with a key to the apartment and instructed to stage a burglary to make it appear as though a local group was responsible. The young man expressed deep remorse, stating that they had been hired by Daphne Wright, who wanted to collect on the outstanding debt. Following this lead, the police located and arrested Bobby Guillory in Katy, Texas. Bobby, who had no prior history of unlawful behavior, confessed to his involvement, confirming that Daphne Wright was the driving force behind the plan. He explained that Daphne had taken advantage of his own financial difficulties, offering him $10,000 to carry out the task. As the puzzle pieces came together, the focus turned to the relationship between Chow Tran and Daphne Wright. When investigators sought to speak with Chow again, he chose to communicate through his legal representative. Financial records revealed that following the tragedy, the sewing business had closed, and Chow had purchased a new home under an agreement with the prosecution to secure testimony against the main planners. Chow provided a detailed account of the events. Chow explained that the family had felt overwhelmed by their perceived obligations to Daphne. He claimed that his mother-in-law, in a gesture of profound self-sacrifice, had suggested using her own life insurance policy to clear the family's debts. Investigators viewed this explanation with skepticism, believing instead that the pressure of the debt and the desire for financial relief had led to a tragic lapse in judgment. In August of the year 2019, the trial of Daphne Wright commenced. The proceedings brought to light the immense dangers of manipulation and the importance of maintaining ethical boundaries. Chow Tran testified extensively about the influence Daphne held over the family's decisions. The defense argued that Chow was also deeply involved and motivated by the financial payout. After careful deliberation, the jury found Daphne Wright guilty of capital murder, and she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Bobby and Willie Guillory also faced justice for their roles in the tragedy, although some felt that not every individual involved faced the same legal consequences. The resolution of the case brought a sense of closure and served as a powerful reminder of the importance of truth, community solidarity, and the rule of law. The story of the Nguyen and Liu family is one of resilience and remembrance. It teaches us that true prosperity is built on honesty, mutual support, and the love we share with our families. By remembering Long and Hong as the kind, hard-working individuals they were, the community of Arlington continues to honor their memory, finding strength and unity and inspiration in the enduring pursuit of a peaceful, honest life. The fabric of trust and shadows. The morning sun over Arlington, Texas, usually brought a quiet warmth to the bustling neighborhoods where families from all walks of life sought to build their futures. In this vibrant corner of Tarrant County, the summer of 2012 arrived with its typical heavy heat and bright blue skies. For years, the city had been a sanctuary of hope, a place where diverse communities converged, weaving a rich tapestry of cultures, languages, and shared dreams. Among those who had found their home here was a community of resilient Vietnamese immigrants, individuals who had traveled far across the ocean to redefine what was possible for their children and grandchildren. They brought with them not just their hopes, but their traditions, their deep respect for family, and an unwavering belief that hard work and faith would pave the way to prosperity. Yet, on the morning of June 10th, 2012, the quiet peace of this community was shattered. What began as a routine request for a welfare check would soon reveal a profound tragedy, launching an investigation that would span years, cross cities, and test the resolve of the most experienced investigators on the force. This is a story of a family caught between two worlds, of a dream that faltered, and of the long, painstaking path toward truth and justice. Part 1. The Silent Apartment. The call came into the Emergency Dispatch Center at precisely 7:29 in the morning. The voice on the other end belonged to 38-year-old Chow Tran, a Vietnamese immigrant whose tone carried a heavy weight of anxiety. He explained to the dispatcher that he was deeply concerned about his elderly in-laws, Long Nguyen and Hong Lu. The dispatcher, accustomed to the calm early hours of a Sunday morning, listened carefully as Chow struggled to find the right words in English to convey the urgency of the situation. He provided the spelling of his father-in-law's name, explaining that the elderly gentleman was in his 70s. Chow explained that his wife, his son, and other family members had gathered outside the apartment complex where the elderly couple lived. They had tried knocking on the door, but there was no answer. Even more concerning, they noticed that one of the apartment windows was open, and through the gap, things inside appeared to be in complete disarray, as if a sudden storm had swept through the living space. Terrified of what they might find, the family chose to wait outside, praying that their fears were groundless. Within minutes, police officers were dispatched to the scene. Among them was Officer Weller, a dedicated member of the force with 14 years of experience. As he pulled up to the apartment building, he immediately noticed a group of family members huddled together on the pavement. It was an unusually early hour for a welfare check, and the palpable tension among the gathered crowd signaled that this was no ordinary Sunday morning. Officer Weller, accompanied by his fellow officers, approached the front door. He called out, announcing his presence, but only silence responded. Stepping through the threshold, the officers found themselves in a space that showed clear signs of a struggle. The living room was in disarray, with compact discs scattered across the floor, furniture pushed aside, and belongings tossed about in a chaotic scramble. It bore all the classic hallmarks of a burglary. Determined to locate the residents, Officer Weller moved quickly through the common areas. The kitchen was empty, the bathroom silent. The only remaining area was the master bedroom. He entered the room, shining his flashlight into the dim corners. At first glance, the room appeared empty, and a brief wave of relief washed over him. He reasoned that perhaps the elderly couple had simply gone for an early morning walk to escape the summer heat, leaving the messy apartment behind. But as he turned to leave the bedroom, his flashlight caught something unusual on the wall adjacent to a small closet. There were faint, dark hand smudges on the plaster, as if someone had reached out in desperation to steady themselves. A sudden instinct, born of years on the streets, made him hesitate. Every protective impulse urged him to tread carefully. With a steady hand, Officer Weller reached out and opened the small closet door. Inside a confined space, his flashlight revealed a sight that will remain etched in his memory for the rest of his career. Lying together were Long Nguyen and Hong Lu. They were bound tightly with duct tape, their hands and feet secured, and their heads and mouths covered in layers of the heavy adhesive. There was blood on the walls and carpet, indicating a violent struggle. It was immediately clear that they had passed away. Overwhelmed by the gravity of the scene, Officer Weller stepped back into the living room. For a brief moment, the veteran officer stood in silence, collecting his thoughts before keying his radio to request a supervisor and the crime scene unit. The quiet apartment had become the center of a complex and deeply troubling mystery. Part 2. The Journey to Arlington. To understand how this tragedy unfolded, one must look back to the year 2000, when Long Nguyen and Hong Lu first arrived in the United States. Like many of their compatriots who had immigrated in waves since the late 1970s, they brought very little in the way of material wealth, but they possessed an abundance of determination. They chose Arlington, Texas, because of its growing, supportive Vietnamese community, a place where they could maintain their cultural heritage while embracing new opportunities. Long and Hong were a deeply devoted couple, known throughout their neighborhood for their kindness, generosity, and gentle nature. They did not have enemies. Instead, they spent their days focusing on their family and their business. Soon after settling in Texas, they established a commercial sewing business, specializing in the production of garments. To help navigate the challenges of running a business in a new country, they enlisted the help of their son-in-law, Chow Tran, who possessed the strongest English skills in the family. Chow became the public face of the enterprise, managing contracts and interacting with external business partners. For nearly a decade, their hard work paid off. The business grew, eventually securing lucrative contracts with major commercial entities, including prominent entertainment brands. The family took immense pride in their success, viewing it as the ultimate realization of their American dream. They were able to provide for their 3 children and grandchildren, establishing a legacy of resilience and prosperity. However, by the year 2011, the tide of good fortune began to turn. The economic climate shifted, and the business unexpectedly lost its major contracts. Revenue dwindled, and the family found themselves facing severe financial strain. In accordance with their traditional beliefs, Long and Hong felt that this sudden streak of misfortune was not merely a matter of bad economics, but perhaps the result of a spiritual misalignment or a curse. In many traditional cultures, when facing insurmountable difficulties, such as potential bankruptcy or severe personal distress, families occasionally seek the guidance of a spiritual advisor. They believe that certain individuals possess the unique ability to perform rituals that can ward off negative energy, lift curses, and restore harmony and success to a household. Hoping to find a solution, Chow Tran and his mother-in-law, Hong Lu, began searching through local Vietnamese language publications. In one of the newspapers, they came across an advertisement for a spiritual advisor located in Houston, approximately 250 miles away. The advertisement claimed that this advisor could remove powerful curses, protect families from misfortune, and help businesses regain their lost prosperity. Encouraged by the prospect of saving their livelihood, Chow made contact with the advisor, a woman named Daphne Wright. She agreed to meet with him at her home in Houston for an initial consultation. During their meetings, Daphne performed elaborate rituals designed to restore the family's luck. For a time, Chow and Hong felt a renewed sense of hope, believing that their financial troubles would soon be resolved. Yet, as the months passed, the business did not recover. Instead, the financial demands of these spiritual interventions began to accumulate, setting in motion a sequence of events that would lead to the tragic discovery in the Arlington apartment. Part 3. The investigation begins. Following the discovery of the crime, Arlington homicide investigators, led by experienced detectives, arrived to process the scene. The sheer violence of the attack suggested something far more complex than a simple burglary. While the apartment had been tossed to create the appearance of a robbery, certain details struck the detectives as unusual. On the coffee table, investigators found a plate containing crushed prescription pills and a discarded marijuana cigarette. More conspicuously, a light blue bandana was found wrapped carefully around a beer bottle left in the room. In the local area, certain youth groups and gangs were known to utilize specific colors, including light blue, to identify themselves. At first glance, it appeared as though a local gang had committed the crime and left the bandana as a deliberate signature. However, the seasoned detectives remained skeptical. In their experience, typical robberies or gang-related activities rarely exhibited the specific combination of extreme personal violence and highly visible, almost theatrical clues. It felt as though the scene had been carefully arranged to lead investigators down a specific path. They suspected that the burglary and the gang associations might have been staged to conceal the true motive behind the murders. To build a clearer picture, detectives began interviewing the family members. Because of his fluency in English, Chow Tran acted as the primary spokesperson. He explained that on the night of the incident, the entire family had gathered to celebrate Long's birthday. The atmosphere had been warm and joyful, with the elderly couple staying at the party until approximately 10:30 in the evening. Another family member had then driven them home, which was the last time anyone had seen them alive. When asked about the family's financial situation, Chow admitted that the sewing business had been struggling significantly, and they had believed it was under a curse. He mentioned that while Vietnamese families sometimes kept cash at home due to a traditional distrust of formal banking institutions, his in-laws did not possess a large sum of money at the residence. He expressed complete shock and devastation, maintaining that the couple had no known adversaries and were loved by everyone in the community. On June 11, 2012, the medical examiner conducted the autopsy. The findings were deeply somber. While the victims had sustained blunt force injuries to the head, the actual cause of death was suffocation, resulting from the extensive layers of duct tape wrapped around their faces. This revelation reinforced the detectives' belief that the primary objective of the attackers was not theft, but a deliberate and highly personal effort to end the couple's lives. A breakthrough seemed to occur when investigators received a call from an insurance company. It was revealed that the deceased couple held substantial life insurance policies, with a total value of approximately $1 million. Upon inquiring about the beneficiaries, detectives learned that Chow Tran was among those designated to receive the proceeds. This financial development cast a new light on the case. On June 13, 2012, detectives requested a follow-up interview with Chow at the police station. Chow explained that the insurance policies had been established to ensure that the family sewing business could continue to operate and support the family in the event of a tragedy. He provided a detailed timeline of his movements on the night